Talk Show. Recorded live.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Genesis Science Fiction Radio Show, a service of the BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website. This is the November 14th, 2014 edition, and tonight's special guest is Keef Cross. And he is an artist, a tattoo artist, I guess probably an author, obviously, and has the intention of becoming either a film producer or at least putting the script together. So without any further ado, because we're running a little late, welcome to the show, Keef. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. And where are you coming to us from?
I'm calling from College Park, Georgia, at my tattoo shop, which is my day job at Infamous Tattoos in College Park, Georgia.
You're actually at the shop now?
I'm actually at the shop. I have customers waiting for me to finish this interview. They're like, I'm like, it's going to be a couple hours. They're like, we're going to wait, so I'm like, okay.
Well, that's not bad. I mean, to have that kind of following. I will say this, having said you're a tattoo artist, one of the funniest signs I've ever seen in my life, I was driving from Florida back up here to Chicago, and I was going through Tennessee, and there was a big sign on like one of these hills, and the sign was probably 5 or 6 semi-trailers long and about 5 or 6 semi-trailers high, and the sign just said, "Tattoos while you wait."
Yeah, I don't know what that means. That's really the only way you can get them.
Exactly, but I thought, for when you go through Tennessee, you don't always think of it as a big humor state, Okay. So that was kind of cool. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about the whole tattoo thing. How long have you been doing the actual tattoo art?
I've been a tattoo artist for 15 years.
Uh-huh.
I apprenticed, took an apprenticeship, which took me about 6 months. And after that, 15 years later, I'm still doing it. As soon as I got out of art school, moved back down to Atlanta from Ohio, which was where I went to school, and just started that apprenticeship. And the money was so good, it just kind of kept me doing it way longer than I thought, and which was cool because I was still technically doing art, making a living doing art, which is what I always wanted. So, yeah, it was good.
Well, the reason why the money was so good is because obviously you've got skills. I mean, if you're a crappy tattoo artist, you'll know it right away because nobody wants to, have you touch them or ink them. So, obviously, I'm serious. You obviously got some cool things going for you. You're down there now. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Atlanta. I was born in Gary, Indiana, but my mother moved us to Atlanta when I was about 2 or 3 years old. So Atlanta is the only place I know, but I have this Midwestern accent that I can't explain to anyone, so I have to tell them, yes, I was originally born from Gary, Indiana, but Atlanta is all I know.
It's kind of funny because I was born in Chicago. I was born on the South Side, which obviously that's right off across the border from where you were born.
Right.
And I sounded when I was growing up, I sounded like J.J. Walker. I mean, we all did. That's how we all spoke. Right. And then in order to get on radio and not be stuck at the high end of the AM band with all of the the black gospel shows and things like that, I went and I got tapes of news programs in Seattle because Seattle has the most non-regional American accent in the country, and that's that's how I learned how to talk like this. And half these folks go, "Man, you sure sound white." And I go, "Well, thank you very much." But I mean, right. you don't sound, obviously you don't sound like Atlanta, you don't sound like Alabama, you don't sound Southern at all. So I could see why people would go, so where are you from?
Right, but what's funny is when I do go back to Gary to visit, everybody says I sound country.
Do they really?
Which is weird, yeah.
You sound good. I mean, look, accent. I pay attention to accents. I mean, obviously I do, but you sound more Chicago than you do Southern.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I think there's levels. I think there's levels to it. You have like Southern, and you got country, then you got like ghetto, which is hood. There's definitely different levels to it, and so I think a lot of people think that if you don't automatically have that kind of ghetto Southern drawl that you must not be here. But I know a lot of people that were born in Atlanta, and you wouldn't be able to tell, you know. Like some people just have, you know, just had a little better, I guess, grammar training, or parents that were kind of sticklers, or parents that may have been from somewhere else. So I guess you just end up sounding like whoever raised you, maybe. I don't know.
So I mean, now like you left Indiana early, right? About how old were you?
I was about 3. I know I started kindergarten in Atlanta. So
yeah. And so you stayed in Atlanta through what age?
I stayed in Atlanta through so I was about 18, and I got a scholarship to go to the Columbus College of Art and Design in Ohio, CCAD. And
right.
went there when I was about 18 or 19, stayed up there for about 4 years, and moved on back.
And how was
had my daughter, had a daughter up there, so after that happened, and it was my senior year, and of course, well, not of course, but I ended up dropping all of my academic classes. I took all my art classes, but like all the math and sciences and everything, I pretty much dropped those my whole college career, and facing my senior year, I had a senior year full of academic classes, so I said, I'm done. And I just pretty much came back home.
So,
Not a good story, but that's what happened.
No, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people, you know, I have the finest 6th grade education that the Chicago Public Schools can provide you. So don't, I mean, different people have different callings, you know. Now, when you were, like, it sounds like you kind of got your bent for art early, and I know that we all start out with crayons and stuff like that, but how was it for you? How did the whole, you know, how did you develop the bent for art?
Well, it's really funny because I always wanted to draw when I was a kid, probably in elementary school, and I would just trace things. My mom would buy me tracing paper, and I would trace comic books. I would trace this, I would trace that, I would trace everything. And my grandfather, who was an artist, I remember one day him telling me, he was like, why don't you just try to draw something? Why don't you just try to draw without tracing? And I took a comic book. I'll never forget. It was an X-Men comic book with Wolverine on the cover fighting the Mandarin. I drew that cover. I just put pencil to paper, and I started drawing it, and I could fucking draw. Oh, I'm sorry. And I could draw. I didn't know it, and I just amazed myself and everybody else. And from that point on, I was just. But it's funny that all those years of tracing, it really affected how I drew. Like, instead of sketching like sketchy lines, I pretty much draw in a straight line as if I was tracing. So that kind of carried over into like what I do now.
That's pretty cool, man. Because for you to, I mean, obviously you had an eye, and have an eye early like that as an artist really makes what comes next, if you stick with it, much easier.
Yep.
So, like, through high school, were you doing art through high school?
Oh yeah. I mean, if it wasn't for my teachers letting me, because I wasn't the greatest student, so a lot of my teachers would let me do a lot of extra credit if I would design their bulletin boards or do some art projects or any kind of thing art related that I could kind of get a little extra credit with. I would do. Of course, it was always the math and the sciences. I was always good in English and writing, but all the technical classes I was pretty bad at. But I was pretty much known in school for being a good artist. I made a little extra money airbrushing clothes and painting on people's clothes, like, you know, the Bart Simpsons and when Freaknik was down here, I was doing a lot of Freaknik T-shirts. So some kind of way I was always into art. My mother always had me into anything art related. She kept drawings in the trunk of her car. Whenever she met somebody that could draw, she would drag me out of the car and have me meet them and like, hey, here's my drawings, man. You know, so, but I mean, you know, thank God for that. You know, she nurtured it, and, you know, I definitely benefited from it.
Well, plus it also sounds like you had a lot of encouragement in school too.
Yes, I did.
I mean, that's a huge thing. What about the kids around you? Were you drawing for them? Were they aware of your artistic bent and your talent? I mean, how was that like?
Well, it's crazy because everybody wanted me to play football because I was really big. I'm still big now, but I was a big guy in high school too. But everybody wanted me to play football. Everybody, when are you going to play football? When are you going to play football? I have no idea about football. I don't watch sports on any level, but the girls liked it. So I went ahead and put the pencil down for a little while, started playing football just for the sake of, got hurt one time, and I was like, I'm good. Let me go ahead and get my sketchbook back out. I'm not really into it like that. So I tried.
At least you had priorities.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
With the girls.
I got to watch these hands, man. I got to take care of these hands,
Yeah, I was stupid, man. I was like a 135-pound quarterback, and even in high school, that's just way too small. And I got tackled bad, and they shattered the ball on my shoulder. So I go, oh, you'll never throw again. Oh, you'll never do this again. So, but you're right. Cheerleaders, women, girls at that age. But okay, yeah. So you take a little time out for a little physical activity to establish your cred as a sports stud, and then you decide, I could hurt myself in ways that could be very far-reaching in the future. So you go back and start writing. Did you do anything like commercial? Were you selling anything at that age, or were you just pretty much just drawing and helping folks out?
Yeah, I was pretty much drawing, helping folks out at that point. I was doing little commissions, if you want to call them commissions here and there. Just I might have drawn somebody's tattoo design. I was drawing tattoo designs like in high school before I even thought I wanted a tattoo. So that was kind of foreshadowing a little bit. But yeah, nothing serious until probably college and after college as far as like freelance work.
Yeah.
So I think at that point I was still kind of trying to find my style and just trying to, just kind of flesh out exactly what my niche was.
Mhm. And were you still kind of comic book driven in terms of what was interesting to you, or were you kind of trying a lot of different genres, a lot of different mediums in order to kind of, well, obviously to make some money or whatever else you have to do, but where were you looking, for your future?
Well, at first, the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to be a puppeteer when I saw Dark Crystal. I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. When that phase ran out, I wanted to be a computer animator. And so I went to school and saw how much math and how much technical aspects go into that before you even get to do anything cool, And I was like, okay, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I always read comic books. I was always a huge comic book fan. My mom started me out with this book called ElfQuest. And that was a major influence. Also, I was also a big fan of Ralph Bakshi and Von Bodie, a lot of the 70s underground comics, Crumb, Harvey P. Carr, American Splinter, all that type of stuff was really a huge influence because it showed me that comic books didn't have to be so superhero oriented. But at that time, I didn't necessarily want to do comic books because I knew it was a lot of drawing, and I knew the stuff that I loved. It was a lot of work, and I really wasn't ready to do that. I took a comic book class in school, didn't pay attention at all because I was like, I don't want to do this. And it's just so ironic that I wish I had paid attention, but it's really funny because a lot of the things that people say they like about my comic book is the fact that it doesn't follow typical comic book, format. And I think I can attribute that to not really remembering everything that I had in that class, but it worked out.
Well, now, when you say comic book format, are you talking artistically or are you talking plot, story?
More like page layout, because a lot of my pages are like full illustrations. I guess you call them splash pages, and it's more like a storybook, I think, feel to it than sometimes a comic booky with the different panels, but a lot of times it feels more like a storybook.
Mhm.
Kind of like an illustrated, not a child storybook, but something like that, where it'll be a full illustration with just type on the side. But I pretty much just do it however I want to do it, whatever feels right. And that's really the only way I could really do it, because if it felt like too much work, I probably wouldn't want to do it. Because it really started out being an escape, and then people just happened to like it, and I just kind of just kept going from there.
You know how it sounds when you go, anything that was too much work
I know, but
just wasn't in my wheelhouse.
It wasn't. But at this point, it's a lot of work. But it's different because I guess not to say that I needed other people to validate it, but when I saw that other people were really liking it and were looking forward to the next thing, it kind of gave me a different purpose and more of a reason to finish it, other than just let me just see if I can do a book. At first it was just I want to do a comic book, so I'm just going to draw one. And I did it,
right.
But now that I see people are into it, it's giving me purpose,
Well,
so it's hard work. It's hard work, but it's good work.
Yeah, but it's also, that's a huge amount of encouragement.
Yeah.
Because if not only is it encouragement, it's also validation. It's validation that A, you have skills, and B, you're garnering respect from people who aren't even clients. At this point, they're more like fans, right?
Right. Yeah. They're definitely fans. These are people totally separate from the tattoo world.
Okay, so this is like kind of at the end of college and coming out of college. You were doing some what would you call it? Independent artwork and things like that.
Fresh out of college, I was tattooing maybe a couple months after I came back. And
wow.
The only reason is my mother. I gotta give all the credit to my mom because she met this guy, or we were riding somewhere, I forget, and there was this tattoo artist in this nail shop, I think, and she knew that he could draw, so she dragged me out of the car. I showed him my stuff. He was like, "Oh man, you're good. You should go talk to this guy and see about maybe if he wants to take you on as an apprentice." So I was like, "Okay, cool." I wasn't making any money. I was fresh out of school, had a newborn baby, so I went down there, and there was a guy named Mario in downtown Atlanta, and he just had me draw some stuff on the spot, and he liked it, and I started my apprenticeship. And and really it couldn't have happened at a better time, because when you do an apprenticeship, you're not making any money, but you have to be there every day. So I was living with my mother, so it was a perfect little window where I didn't have any rent, I didn't really have any bills yet, so it really gave me enough time to kind of devote to the apprenticeship. So it's perfect.
And then was it difficult for you to go from, doing maybe pen and ink or pencil or whatever to going to inking people?
Very difficult because, paper doesn't shake or complain or cry or pass out or have seizures. Paper and canvas stays still. But when you start dealing with people, it's a totally different ball game. And it's a lot that goes into it that really doesn't have anything to do with your art skill. It has a lot to do with your social skills, because a lot of people are sitting in that chair and they're feeling that pain, and they like to open up and they like to talk to get their mind off of it. So you really have to have some good social skills along with the art skills. I know guys that are so bad at tattooing. They're really, really bad tattoo artists, but they have great personalities and they have just a great demeanor about themselves. They have customers just like, tons of them, so it's funny how that works. Hello?
Keith?
Yes.
Sorry about that. We seem to be having technical trouble tonight.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, but I'll toe the line until William gets back.
Okay.
And that's interesting about how customer service and having personality and things of that nature can trump not being as talented.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how that works, man. And it's really and it's really sad, because a lot of black folks, man, we really got low expectations or low standards when it comes to tattoo work, because you see people like Lil Wayne and a lot of the rappers that are out, they have a lot of tattoos, but if you put them under a microscope, they're really poorly done and they're really kind of bootleg. So all the people that envy these people, they see these tattoos and they think, well, if they got it, then it must be fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to my man who tats out of his house for $10, $15 and let him do it, because it's really, I don't really aspire for anything better, you know. So.
Oh, that's
well,
kind of dangerous.
What it is. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Probably
hepatitis.
Yeah, and the other thing is, you know, you sound like your apprenticeship. You know, you actually got trained, and you got trained in all of the aspects, especially the healthcare, the health aspects, and things like that. And I know people. I dated somebody. She had a friend do a star on her shoulder. And, you know, most tattoos, when you touch them, you can't tell that the ink is there. There's no difference in the texture of the skin. And she obviously had somebody do a bad job on her. And that's, you know, sometimes when you go to that lowball tattoo artist, you get what you pay for.
Right.
Or worse.
That's true.
Or worse.
That's true.
I'm like this.
If your shoes cost more than your tattoo, you need to prioritize.
Okay.
Really.
No, I get you. It's, you know, it's like people with me. I'm like a computer guy, and if you want that $100 computer that someone's selling you out of your trunk, out of his trunk, you get what you pay for. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, let's talk about you know, I've got your book up here, Day Black. And about where in your career, you know, did you start? Well, I mean, you've got, how many issues do you have? The 3 issues or 4 issues?
I have 3 issues. The 4th issue is probably going to be getting sent off this weekend. So yeah, so far about 4 issues.
Okay, tell us a little bit about what it is and kind of a little bit about the backstory.
Okay, well, the book is called Day Black. And it is a story of a man who started out as a slave. He gets bitten by a vampire in the cotton fields. Fast forward to present day, he works as a tattoo artist. And in this particular setting, or the world that they live in, there are diseases out like HIV, which if a vampire contracts it, you know, it's a little bit different effect than if humans get it. So basically, vampires have to take professions, or they have to take precautions before they just bite people. So my main character, his name is Merce, and he's invented this tattoo machine that can suck blood or extract blood while it gives ink, while it does the tattoo. When he does this, he can screen it and make sure that it's clean later. So that's the basic premise of the story. But, you know, it's a lot deeper than that, but that's just a general overview. And he has narcolepsy. He falls asleep random times, falls asleep while he's doing tattoos, but he has these dreams that are giving him clues to some things that he's going to discover soon.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, a little mystery there.
Yeah, and it's obvious that part of it is based on, you know, some autobiographical things, because, you know, you're a tattoo artist. The main character is a tattoo artist. When you set out to do this, you had the familiar around you, but I mean, where did the creativity, where did the idea for this particular storyline come from? Was it just that you went, you know, I know a lot about this, I can write about it, or was it a little deeper than that, like this makes a great basis for, you know, something that I'm going to create a whole universe around? Right.
Well, at the time, in the tattoo business, every year there's a season called the slow season, which are the winter months, like October through December, where the whole business kind of slows down. And this was the time, and usually that's because when it gets cold outside, nobody's showing skin. You know, the holidays are coming, people are saving their money. There's a lot of different factors, but this was the time where I was sitting at work and I didn't have anything to do, and I would just start drawing. And a lot of the stories from the book pretty much were inspired by people that I would tattoo. It was just so many different kind of characters in the city that would come through, and just so many different scenarios, so many different things people would talk to me about, that I just started to write stuff down. And it was a lot of different things. I remember at the time there was a tattoo artist named Rhino, and I think he was like 300-400 pounds, but he was known for falling asleep on people. So people would come in, it was like, yeah, Rhino did my tattoo, and you would see this line kind of drift off, and you can just kind of imagine somebody just kind of falling, and he would literally fall over on people, like fall out. And I was like, wow, that's crazy, and this guy's still working, like he still has customers. So I filed that in my memory bank, and that came out in Merce, just another just crazy kind of character trait that I added to him. And everything else was just, man, I don't know. Dealing with blood, learning about blood-borne pathogens just kind of made me, correlate that with blood and vampires. I really don't know how it happened. It just kind of got blended together in my brain some kind of way, but mostly from the experiences and the people that I met working at that first shop, and all that extra time on my hands.
For people who are going to pick this up as a podcast and aren't listening live and can see the link in the chat room, you can take a look at the page that's got. Is this the larger one? Is this your fourth cover?
What does it look like? I'm not.
With the uniform, with unicorn on the hat.
Oh, okay. That's actually a promo. It was going to be a cover, but I just decided on something else. But that's Mercer's brother, his psycho brother Bryce. Probably going to use that for something else one day.
So anyway, the link to take a look at his work is www.rosarium, ROSARIUM, publishing, all one word, .com, at /ROSARIUM-books-DaveBlack.html and
also KeefCross.com too. Where you,
even for Keef Cross, and that's spelled KeefCross. When I think about the creation of a comic, you're pulling from your daily life and stories that you know, and I hope that brother doesn't hear about you writing about him in your comic because he might want to cut. But with so much, I mean, obviously being a tattoo artist probably gives you a pretty rich tapestry from which to draw ideas, stories from. How extreme do you think your imagination is compared to the reality of what you're doing? Is there a marked difference? Obviously there's no such thing as vampires, and there's no, so, but is it more? Are we talking about current times first of all?
Definitely.
So we're talking about a very, very familiar environment, a familiar universe, and then we get to see your variations on a theme and how you execute that. Have you gotten much feedback? Because obviously with 3 issues already out on the street, and you still keeping going, there's got to be some positive impetus that's keeping you drawing and writing. I've
been extremely blessed, man. I've been getting so much positive feedback. It feels like I won the lottery. Like a lot of times when I read the stuff, I can't believe that people like this shit like they do. I mean, excuse my language, but it's just something that I've been doing so long, and just really just for me. So when other people really start liking it and seeing things in it that I might not have necessarily intended. But I think that's art, man. Art it's all about what the viewer sees or what the person interprets from it. And if they get something, they take something good from it, then great, So all the feedback has been good. And the biggest issue I thought I was going to have was just how I laid the pages out, because it was so different than a normal comic book. But that was the thing that people liked the most about it, So everything's been going good, and that positive feedback is actually what prompted me to write the screenplay for the short film that we shot. I was like, okay, well, this is doing well. There's no reason I can't, let's try to do this too,
Well, you have shot it already, or you're going to shoot it?
We have shot it, yes. We shot a 15-minute short, and the purpose of that is to shop it as a possible TV series or feature film. But right now we just sent it to Sundance, Tribeca, and Cannes to just see just see what happens, and we're just gonna go from there. Actually, Jarvis, I sent Jarvis the link. I can send you one too if you want to check it out, man. I have links to the movie, so I'll definitely have to get that to you.
Okay,
but you can see it. But anybody that wants to see the trailer, the trailer can be seen at dayblackfilm.com.
Dayblackfilm.com. Oh, okay, cool. So how'd you like producing a short? Did you produce it, or did you hire people to do it for you?
No, I produced. Well, it was me and my friend Justin Jordan, an amazing director. He had a successful web series, and I had went through 2 directors prior. It was just creative differences; it just didn't work out. But me and Justin really kind of clicked, and basically, I learned about compromise and just knowing that when you're working with somebody else on something, it's going to be your vision, but it's also their vision too. So a lot of the things that you'll see in Day Black, you might not necessarily see in the film, just because me and Justin have different sensibilities and different philosophies about things and life in general. That stuff that I never even thought of would have came up, but when we were shooting, he may have been like, I don't really feel comfortable doing this, and I was like, okay, I don't feel comfortable. So it was a give and take thing, but in the greater scope of things, it worked out good, and it is a really solid representation of what the movie could be. And it is a difference as opposed to when I come home, I'll sit on my table and I'm just drawing Day Black. I'm writing Day Black with no outside influences. Like, I'm literally doing whatever I want. So it's a big difference,
Yeah, it is. Well, and having the freedom to be able to concentrate, because when you look at what you do, obviously you're an artist, but then you take it a step further, because when you ink, when you're doing ink, you're doing art in a whole different. It's basically a different tapestry, and then you're going to try to translate, what came out of your art into a comic book and then into a movie. That's a lot of ground to cover, and I don't say that at all like that would be difficult. I'm just saying that's like really cool, ambitious.
Hello? I'm sorry, I have to find a quiet spot in my shop. Okay.
So when you think in terms of maybe either doing this as a movie, or would you do it as like a television show or webisodes?
Yeah, definitely. I'm thinking more of along the lines of like HBO, AMC, like a cable show. So yeah, like an hour-long show. But it's such a tough decision, because those series, they have such a long life, and they can be better than movies. I'm sure, as a lot of people know. So it's really just a tough decision, like which one do I want to pour the most energy into. But we're really trying to just do both. Like, if we can, even right now, I'm in the process of trying to find someone to help me out with an animation reel to possibly explore that with Adult Swim, because everybody thinks the style would translate over into animation pretty good.
Well, DSFS has a ton of people who are great 2D and 3D animators, and since there's already an affinity, in terms of content, you might be able to find some pretty decent people, at the BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website, the people who hang out there, who might be able to not only point you in the right direction, but help you out, because people who have an affinity with something often will give you either better than you would get normally if you just had to buy the services outright, and not only that, but they might even cut you a break on what it costs. I did a $80,000 movie trailer here in Chicago, and I did it for $130 worth of food. But that was because the people who I worked with were anxious to do a good job. So, I think that whatever you decide you're going to do, whatever medium you decide to tackle, you're going to be able to find, if you've got good story material in it, and it appears you do, you're going to be able to find.
Yeah, and you know what I got to add to that? I don't mean to cut you off, but everybody that worked on the film, worked on it pro bono, which was great. Everybody read the script, and everybody just loved the story so much. Aside from the equipment rentals, everybody worked pro bono, man. It was such a blessing, man. So that's another confidence booster. You know, everybody was like, we would love to work on it, so that was great.
Well, I mean, they obviously had faith in the material. You know what I mean? That's huge. Yeah. I mean, if you put together a really crappy script, it can sound like Death Valley when you're asking folks, you know, hey, can you give me a hand? You know, you got nothing but tumbleweeds blowing around. All right, so you've got this that you're going to try to translate into some kind of motion picture or show. You've got the trailer. I don't want to look at the trailer while we're doing the show, but I want to take a look at that because, you know, that's often the best way to sell something because obviously if a picture is worth 1,000 words, what would a movie be? You know what I mean? Yeah. Okay, so when you take a look at where you are with the comic book, how long is your current story arc? Do you think you're going to get 10 issues out of this, 20, or is this something that's going to hopefully, pan out to be a much, much bigger project? What are you thinking?
Oh, yeah. Well, definitely the first arc, I've planned 10 issues, and this is for the first major story arc where all of my central characters would be introduced in that first big storyline. After that, I have so many different characters, and being that it's set in a city, and also I forgot to add that the reason it's called Day Black is because the vampire Merce, he found a town in Georgia, a small secluded town that used to be a industrial town, but there was a chemical meltdown. Anyway, the smokestacks left the skies black, so the sun doesn't show through to this town, so he's able to walk around day or night. That's why it's called Day Black.
Okay, but it's not a dystopian world where, you know, the whole world has been destroyed or anything like that.
No.
It just happens to be in a bad place in the United States.
Yes.
Okay. No, I mean, it sounds like you've got unlimited potential, you know.
Right.
And the cool...
And like I was saying, since it is a city or it is a small town, like I have a werewolf character that I'm going to introduce. I've been playing around with a Frankenstein-type monster, but it's definitely got a twist in it. Anything that I kind of do, I try to have it some kind of way rooted in the present and something social, some kind of social commentary. For instance, the vampire hunters in my book, all vampire hunters are Mexican. And the reason I got that idea is because I was just thinking about all the immigrants that come to this country and they take all of these jobs for less than nothing and really the stuff that Americans don't want to do. And at the same time, you know what I'm saying, we downgrade them, or not downgrade them, but we kind of talk down to them or look down on them. And they really feel like, it really feels like the equivalent of white people's attitude towards black people. And kind of reverse, like black people are turning into that with the Hispanic community, which I always thought was really bad, man, and just really sucks. So in my book, I make all the immigrants, they're vampire hunters because they're immigrating over here because America has the highest concentration of vampires. And they take these jobs because the places they're working at, like these large contracting buildings or corporations, these are the places that are run by vampires. So they're really trying to infiltrate and dispatch them. And, you know, being that they're contractors, they have stuff like chainsaws, they have tools and stuff that they can use to dismember these vampires, but they still have the cover of being, you know, landscapers or construction workers. So that's just a little tweak on the lore that I did on the vampire lore, but it's still in a way to still kind of uplift these people that kind of get the short end of the stick, I think, in America.
I don't even want to comment on the sociology that you've got there, but I think it's brilliant.
Thank you.
And being in a city, you know, obviously cities have a much, much bigger multiracial and multi-class kind of demographic than a small town. Do you have certain? I mean, do you use other memes, other social memes, other racial memes, other prejudicial memes, or racist memes to help kind of drive your stories along? Because the reason why I'm asking is, a lot of us who write, we write what we know, and we write our neighborhoods, we write our neighbors, and things like that. Is yours more of a cosmopolitan mix of big city kind of people? Your characters?
Well, the characters in Day Black, because you got to think, anybody that would want to move to a town where the sky is black and the sun doesn't shine, that's a special kind of person. Those are special kind of people that would want to move to a place like that. So these are people that may be running from the law or may have something to hide, but it really just leaves a breeding ground for a lot of interesting characters,
Okay.
As far as any kind of social, like pretty much everybody in my book is black. All my characters, black and Latino. And it wasn't really a purposeful thing to do that, but that's just how it came out, because I just feel like everything else is so saturated with anything but that. To just have that in itself is political or is a social commentary. To just have an all-black cast, an all-black, everything all black, I think that in itself, you don't have to do any stories to have to do anything with any kind of social commentary. Just the fact that that book is what it is, I think in itself is a social commentary. But that's not to say that those things won't come up. Like I was saying before, Mercer's a slave. So a lot of the things that he sees today, he relates back to when he was a human and when he was a slave, as far as like things like women straightening their hair or just small little things that he's going to kind of think back and like, man, I remember back in my day, this and this, but not too heavy or not too preachy, but you'll be able to see a little bit of social stuff injected in there from time to time.
And then for what age group are you writing? Is this teen appropriate, preteen appropriate? Where are you shooting for?
Well, it's really funny because when I first did it, I've had about 3 or 4 different drafts before I really got serious. But the first drafts, I would say, well, as I said before, like a lot of my influences, Ralph Bakshi, Bode, Crumb, these were a lot of underground artists, and a lot of their stuff had nudity, it had sex in it. So my first Day Black draft was all of that. It was drug use, it was sex, it was really adult. But at the same time, I had a daughter who was about 2 or 3 years old. My daughter's 15 years old now, so it kind of made me change the way I wrote because I wanted my daughter to be able to read it. I wanted her to be proud of me. I wanted her to see it and like it. And so I scaled it down. I kind of, it's definitely still, I would say 18 and up, maybe even 15 and up, 16 and up. But there's no sex in it, anything like that. But it's funny, once I took all of that stuff in, or once I took all of that stuff out, that's when I started to get people noticing, and that's when Bill Campbell from Rosarian Publishing actually reached out to me. So dropping all that stuff really kind of made it more accessible, I think. And you know what? And it really made me understand things like, I'm a big like Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence fan, and I was like, man, why won't these guys ever do another Harlem Nights or another one of those good movies that they would do was real raunchy and cussing and all that? And I was like, because they probably got kids and they really want to show their kids their work, So I totally get that now,
Yeah, a lot of people have said that. I mean, even porn stars. What's that girl's name? Well, anyway, I don't remember her name, but one of them said, "Well, I'm not going to do any more of these movies because I've got young boys now, and eventually they're going to be at that age where if I did keep doing it, then it would be a problem. You know what I mean? They'd have to put up with it in school. People would make fun of them and things like that. So I mean, you're obviously not at that end of the spectrum, but
right.
But the other thing is maybe it helps you be a better writer because you don't have to rely on those kinds of distractions.
Right.
Like when you go see comedians these days, and you go to a comedy club, most of them use adult language. I don't want to call it foul language. Adult language, basically for its shock value and and as a, kind of like a distraction.
Exactly.
Oh, the joke wasn't that good, but I said the F word or whatever. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so I think that it forces you to have to tell a better story, because you're not cheating your readers or yourself by going for the easy laugh, the easy panel, the easy joke, or the easy whatever.
Exactly.
So
I will say when I was starting out, I was a bachelor.
Yeah.
So I was drawing and I was writing as a bachelor. Now I'm married and I have 2 kids. So I approach everything in my life pretty much as if I have that, as if I'm married with children. How I write, how I draw. I used to do a lot of erotic painting. Don't do that anymore. Can't justify. Can't tell my daughter why I'm painting this. I like to do it because I was good at it and I like doing it and I did it well. But I just can't really justify it anymore. I'm not having a 15-year-old and I'm trying to teach her about how guys are and what to look out for. But at the same time, here's Daddy painting a picture of I don't even want to say what. So it's just a maturity thing. I started Day Black when I was about 20, 21, 22 years old. Now I'm 37.
Yeah. Honey, here, this is what I want to tell you about boys. Okay, here's some of my earlier drawings.
Right. Oh my God! Okay. And what's crazy is there are issues. Somebody out there has those books, because I was selling those before I linked with Rosarian Publishing. I was at downtown underground Atlanta, so they're out there. So whoever got those, man, put them in your vault. They might be worth something one day.
Well, and the other thing is, if you still have copies too, I mentioned to one of our other artists, Winston here, when you get to the point where you have a body of work that is worth compiling to show your evolution as an artist, as an author, as a painter, as an inker, that all of that is instructive, because then you get to look back and you go, oh my God, look at the influences here, look what happened here. Oh yeah, this I can tell right here. This is where I had my first child. You know what I'm saying? Because it's indicative of who you are and what your identity is.
Right. Definitely.
I think good artists evolve.
Definitely.
So, all right. So nowadays, when you concentrate on your writing, you force yourself to put together a damn good story, because you can't put a damn or whatever in there to distract people. Is it harder for you, or have you gotten in the groove?
I'm in the groove, man. Like, I'm totally in the groove. It took me about 10 years to get in the groove and to really know my characters. And for a while, I was really unsure with my writing, because I always knew my strength was in art, but I always enjoyed writing, but I just focused on one more than the other. But, working with other writers, it was just hard because I knew what I wanted, but I guess when you hear somebody else put their spin on it, you're like, no, that's not it. I mean, I appreciate it, but no, that's not it. So I went through 2 or 3 people like that, really good writers, don't get me wrong, but just not right for Day Black. And in retrospect, I don't see how they could have been, because so much of Day Black is me. Like, Merce is me. So it couldn't have been done any other kind of way. So I just had to stop being lazy. I just had to start writing, and I just had to start drawing. There was no getting around it. It was no trying to find someone else to take this load off. I had to take that whole load to get it the way that I wanted to get it. Now I feel like I'm so confident in the world that I've built. I know the character so well where I actually could let somebody come in and write something, because I can tell you now, no, he wouldn't say this. Yes, he would say that. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, you've got their voices in your head now. You know you live with them every day. It's almost like they're definitely a part of you. Obviously, it's almost like they're like another family.
Yes. Definitely.
And this whole world that you've created is populated by these incredible people who, though they may have started out as, stories from your past, you've given them a whole new life. You've given them a universe. You've given them a playground where they get to do the things that you think they ought to do. And I think at that point, you're lucky if there are people who can do a collaborative writing thing, and then there are others who do very, very good writing, but they need someone to edit for them. And then there are some who are so involved with their universe and they're so steeped in it that they don't need help anymore. Maybe they just need someone, to color in between the lines or whatever, whatever the thing is. So it sounds to me like you've got both halves of the equation. You've got the story, the writing down, and obviously you've got your own style of art.
Yes.
Are there people out there who do you think that you could you could possibly reach a collaborative level, and have someone else join you in your universe, or is it still at this point too personally focused and it's all you?
Well, I think at this point I would definitely have to finish the first 10 issues because that's going to set the tone for everything else that follows. But I'm definitely open to it because I feel like a writer is gonna challenge me artistically because I feel like, when you write and you draw, I think sometimes you can write things towards your strength in drawing. Like, okay, I'm going to write this because I know I can draw this pretty good. But I feel like if I work with an outside writer, they're going to challenge me to draw something I might not be able to do so well in. But that's usually when I surprise myself and it comes out really cool,
You step up.
You step up, man. I think that can only be a good thing as long as we see eye to eye on the story and the kind of tone of the book. And I think I could definitely do it. I'd be open to it.
Yeah. So you mentioned a couple of people who over your earlier years, let's say from high school to the time you got out of college, who were the kind of people who were an inspiration to you? What were you reading at that time? Because, nobody exists in a vacuum.
Yeah, I was definitely on Brother Man. Shout out to Dawood. X-Men. Mostly comic books. Like I said, big Elf fan.
Yeah, the existing comics that were out at the time?
Yeah, the existing comics that were out, of course, the old 70s comics. But really, most of my influences come from film.
Okay.
I'm a huge film buff, and actually, one movie in particular, Pulp Fiction. When I saw Pulp Fiction in the theaters, it literally changed the way I looked at pretty much everything. It changed the way I look at movies. It changed the way I looked at art. It just pretty much. I started buying screenplays just to read them. And I was like maybe 16, 17 years old. Maybe not. Whenever that came out, I was definitely in high school, but that movie is a huge influence on me. And even film in general, like when I'm laying out pages, I lay pages out in the same way that somebody would, describe in a screenplay, like the camera pans over this way, you might see that. So just my whole aesthetic, I think my whole creative process leans heavily more on film than books.
What was the aesthetic in the movie that struck you so much, that was so compelling for you?
I think, for one, it was the way it was told out of order. And I hear a lot of people tell me that that's what they hate about that movie, or that a lot of people didn't like it because of that, but that was what really drew me into it. Because I knew in novels that happens a lot, but I've never seen it happen in a film. And just the dialogue, just the way that people were talking to each other just felt very natural and just didn't feel like a movie. It just kind of felt like I was just listening in on something. And I could just tell that Quentin was just an artist. I could just tell this wasn't a movie. This was art I was looking at. I could just tell the difference. Everything before that movie, to me, it was just a movie. It was just a movie. Like, you put it on, you watch it, whatever. This movie, when I watched it and I got out, like, I wanted to make movies. When I went to CCAD, I majored in film. That's the first thing I majored in because I didn't want to go to art school and just automatically do what I knew that I could do. I wanted to do something that I wanted to do, and having a chance, I wanted to try it. But it was so expensive, man, like the materials and the film and, everything. Back then, this was like dark room, and it was just a totally different game than it is now. But definitely film, hugely inspired by film. Quentin Tarantino, Spike Lee, David Fincher, Paul Thomas Anderson, Wes Anderson. So many people, man, so many people. And I even liken Day Black to an indie film. Like, You have blockbuster films, like a blockbuster would be equivalent comic book would be like the Avengers, but Day Black would be more like, I don't know, Ghost World or just something, you know what I'm saying? Just more indie feel to it.
Mm-hmm,
Now I do have stories. The next story that I'm going to write after I'm done with the Day Black, or not when I'm done with it, but when I have a little time to move on. I have a science fiction story that I'm working on that would be classified as a blockbuster. So,
okay. When I look at your artwork and I think about you doing, let's say you do an animated series based upon your work, this would be, at least in style, it would be a throwback to like the pretty cool times in the late 70s and early 80s, the heavy metal type of animation, things like that. Do you have a vision right now for what, how you want this to look, or are you going to stick pretty closely to the artwork you have in the
yeah, I think it would. I would definitely want to stick to as close to what I've already done, because because everybody seems to love it. So, and I think it would translate pretty easily. But as far as like style wise and tone wise, Ralph Bakshi, man, I'm a huge Fritz the Cat, Coonskin, like all those movies. I just love that stuff. How the music is intertwined with it, and it's just really kind of trippy, and I don't want to say druggy, but it just kind of has that feel to it. Like I'm just into stuff like that. I think that's really cool.
Well, it's very evocative of that whole period of time that really influenced your original art, right?
Exactly. And the great thing about Merce is, and there are some stories where I'm going to explore, like, okay, you've been alive 400 years, like, what have you been doing? So I have scenes where, he played in the band with Jimi Hendrix, stole his style, and stuff that he just didn't get credit for. So, it's just a lot, and stuff like that can have the, 70s music. I mean, it's just so many ways you can go with it, man, especially when you're playing with time and somebody that's lived that long. There's so many stories, and there's so many different time periods. It's incredible, man. There's just so much you can do.
Yeah.
I'm getting tired of just thinking about writing all that stuff.
Yeah, you've got a great universe, and it sounds like you've got a pretty well thought out story arc. Once you're done with the 10, do you think that you would stay in this universe, or do you have other creative universes in your head that you can branch out to, or are you really, really invested in this guy for right now?
I'm really invested in this guy right now, but like I said before, I have a sci-fi that is really the first thing I started working on, but it was just so big that Day Black was just a little bit smaller and a little bit easier to kind of get out. But yeah, definitely, man. But Day Black is definitely the focus right now, and the second story is called Last Crop, but that's going to be like my opera right there,
And how far ahead you think we are looking at that?
Oh man, a while. Because with me, a lot of stuff starts just from a picture. I'll draw something and I'll build a story around it, and that's really how Day Black started. Even with the character Merce, I think I was looking at a picture of Mos Def, and he just looked really cool in this picture. He had a cool hat on, he had a cool suit, and so I just started sketching it and I drew it, and I ended up coming up with Merce, and I pretty much based his whole look after Mos Def. So I don't know what question you asked me, how I got to that, but
I don't either. I don't pay any attention to this show whatsoever. No, it just gets in the way of thinking.
Right.
Okay, so you got some very straightforward, straight ahead kind of stuff, and it sounds like, can I ask how old you are?
I'm 37. I'll be 38.
Yeah. So
December 12th.
You're under 40, and you've got a universe to work in.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, man. And you actually went and got your fundamentals. You spent some time in school, although some of it you didn't like to do. But at least you did your due diligence so that you could be an artist. Yes, you could trace. Yes, you could write. Yes, you could draw. But still, a lot of people try to just jump right in and think, well, I'll just start drawing this and it'll be cool and everybody will love it, and then Stan Lee will call me up and then I'll oh, come on. Here in Chicago, I'll give you the analog here in Chicago. The analog here in Chicago for for authors was, oh man, I'm gonna write this book and then I'm gonna give it to Oprah, and then when Oprah puts it in her book, then I'm set for life. And, I said, well, first of all, I just want you to know that Oprah doesn't read the books. Oprah has a 28-year-old white lady reading the books. What?
Right.
And then I said, and Oprah has been burned 2 times, so when Oprah chooses David Copperfield for the book of the month, you know that Oprah has sold out. What? And people just don't pay attention. They just figure that whatever fantasy they have in their head is going to be the thing that happens because it's their shortcut. It's their, quote, beating the system. And that was my point earlier. You didn't start out trying to beat the system. You started out learning your craft.
Right.
And for anybody who doesn't know, to translate art on paper, canvas, or anything like that to skin, that is not a straightforward transition at all. I mean, there are it'd take us too long to talk about the difficulties of working on skin, wouldn't it?
Man, oh my God, that's a whole nother show, man. That's
yeah.
a whole nother show. But I mean, but after with anything, with practice, it just becomes second nature.
Yeah, but see, a lot of people expect to just do it right out of the box. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and the thing about tattooing is now they've made it so easy. Like when I first started back in 2000. If you wanted to order tattoo supplies, you'd have to work in the shop. You'd have to have a shop address. Otherwise, they wouldn't even send it to you. Now,
right.
you could get any magazine. It doesn't even have to be a tattoo magazine, but they'll have the whole kit in there. You can just order it. They'll send it right to your house, and people set up shop. And you can't really blame people that don't really have a genuine interest of the art form. They're just trying to make some money. Hey, it's the same thing with music. People buy equipment. They make music because it's easy, but that doesn't make it good, So yeah, that's true. I don't understand this whole thing about everything's so accessible now,
Well, yeah, it's accessible, but you still, that's the thing. People think just because they can do it, they can do it, and no,
doesn't mean you should.
Artistry. There's artistry to it, man.
Right.
Stop and think about trying to do a comic book and not knowing human anatomy.
Right.
Unless you're doing Baby Huey or something like that, that's just ridiculous. How can you have an expectation of doing well when you haven't done right? You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think going to school is an essential part of learning the things that you need to learn. What do you got? What do you have? A daughter now? How many kids?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I have a 15-year-old girl and I have a 2-year-old little girl.
Okay, so what's the 15-year-old into? Does she see what you do and have any desire to look in that direction, or not at all?
I don't think so. And I was always looking for that. I was always looking for any little inkling of her wanting to draw. But she's very creative. She's a master doodler. Like her doodles are, they're out of this world. So, even that could be a start. But so far she's into dancing, and my wife is a drama and a dance teacher, so she keeps her involved in this. There's a theater company called YEA, Youth Ensemble of Atlanta, and my daughter she's an active member in that organization. So she's definitely on the creative side. My 2-year-old is the same way. She's a dancer just like her mom. And actually, she actually just had a viral video. If you go to 2-year-old choreographer on YouTube, you'll see her. She's been dancing to this song, and it went viral just from her dancing. So definitely creative kids, not necessarily art that I can see yet.
And how do they talk about Daddy's job, Daddy's art?
Well,
do they have an awareness of it? I'm sure your older daughter does, but it doesn't sound like she's the least bit interested in that aspect yet of your life.
Right. No, it's more that her daddy's a tattoo artist. Like that trumps everything. Like you know, she just loves that. She tells all her friends that anytime I go take her anywhere or meet her friends, I get all these kids under 18 asking, can they get a tattoo, or their parents asking, can they get a tattoo? So it's all about the tattoos, man. Nobody cares about the comic books. It's just about the tattoos.
That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
What is the law? The parent has to be there for someone under 18 to get a tattoo, and then what's the lowest age that you tattoo somebody?
Well, the law is 18. Even with
okay.
a parent, like you got shops that'll do it. They'll tattoo you if your parent come, but it's still not legal. So our shop, you have to be 18, no exceptions, just 18.
Right.
That's pretty much everywhere. Only thing you can get something under 18, maybe a piercing with a parent, but for tattoos, yeah, you got to be 18 because it's permanent.
Yeah. If the movie takes off, or all of a sudden you get a contract for, producing this as for television or what have you, and you have to leave the tattooing behind, is that something you think you can do?
I would totally do it. I can't wait for that day to come. Because I've been tattooing for a long time, and I'm really kind of burnt out on it.
Yeah.
Because I've been tattooing 15 years, and I feel like that's a long time to do anything. Tattooing was never a passion of mine. I really don't love it any more than I like to paint or to sculpt or to airbrush. I just look at it kind of like another discipline. It just happens to pay my bills better than any of the rest of that stuff does. But a lot of it just comes with me ready for that next thing to do, and I'm really just kind of over tattooing. I mean, all my clients out there, I'm sorry, I still love y'all, but if I ever get a chance to move on and not have to tattoo anymore, I'm gonna jump at it.
Mhm. And what steps are you taking right now to kind of sell your ideas to Hollywood, or even a private production company or television?
Well, right now, me and my partner Justin, we are so new to this. So right now, we're just trying to put in every film festival we could get in. Which we're sharing the trailer with as many people that know, quote unquote, important people that may be of an influence on getting that happening. So right now, we're just learning as we go. We're just taking in all the feedback, taking in all the criticisms, and that's a good question, man. I don't know. And if we do get that call, like, hey, I'm probably gonna hang up, and I don't know. But I guess I'll just cross that bridge when I get to it. But we are planning on doing a Kickstarter campaign. If nothing comes from the festival, say we go there and it flops, which I don't think is going to happen because I strongly believe in this movie. But if nothing happens, we're definitely going to have a Kickstarter campaign where we're going to try to raise some money to get a feature-length shot.
Okay. I actually can think of a couple other ways that you might be able to do this, but we can talk about that later if you want to get together online and talk about that. Because I like to see people succeed, especially people who have good product. Because that's what it is. Content is king. If you don't have good content, just stay your ass at home and quit annoying everybody else. Okay, I'm sorry to be so blunt, but dude, I am so tired of seeing crap. I am so tired of seeing crap. And then, when people ask you to critique their stuff, they don't want you to critique their stuff. They want a cheerleader. And then if you actually tell them, well, I think you're making a mistake here, or maybe, in my experience, I would suggest blah, blah, blah. They don't want to hear that. They don't care. Because everybody thinks they're a superstar. Every single person out there thinks they're a superstar. And then, content creators are a pretty... We're kind of we're not the most confident of people out there because we get our validation directly from someplace else. You can write whatever you want to write, but when you look at it and you kind of test it in your mind and roll it over your tongue to see if you've got the quality there, you still don't know until somebody else says it. So it's a tough way to go, but man, if you've got the creativity, you have Because really what they're doing is
Hello?
that movie. What was that movie? Hello?
Okay,
you there?
So, okay. Uh-huh.
That movie where they had Cool World. Did you see that?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Real life with Kim
With
Basinger
Brad Pitt and Kim Basinger.
Yeah. So, if somebody comes up with a clever idea, and I think that's really the key these days, because if it's a clever idea, it's going to garner some eyeballs. If we step back and we look at Cloverfield or the Blair Witch Project, they weren't that good, but they were different.
Right.
And different is what I think people should strive for. So, I can think of a couple ways that might help you on your way. Like I said, I don't want to waste time doing that now, but when you talk about this with your partner, it sounds to me like, yes, you're going to continue doing the comics. You want to get up to 10 at least.
Definitely.
But in the interim, you're definitely trying to push this out through a new medium. Do you have the people that you found to do your production work down there? Just to let other people who listen to this know, how did you find, your production team to do the short?
Well, like I said before, my wife, she's an actress. Her name's Shannon Bird. She's an amazing actress and improv comedian, artist, and her whole family, her whole family has been active in the arts. They're all actors. So I had a pretty large pool to draw from. Like, I kind of married into, the acting side of things. So that was a blessing. So and if I wasn't married to her, it may not have happened so smoothly. But I just had access to all these actors. I had access to costumes. I just had access to a lot of things that otherwise I might not have had it. So I got to thank my wife for that. It just, thank you for letting me marry her. So.
Well, yeah. It was serendipity, and if most of us men would be honest, most of us marry way over the end of our skis anyway.
Right.
I think that the best of us realize that we got better than we, maybe, I don't want to say better than we gave, but we got better than we expected. So that's kind of cool that she's got that level of creativity. And so it also sounds like you have very, very good support with your family and friends, which also helps a lot, doesn't it?
Excellent support. And also social media, man. Facebook, like while we were shooting, I would post things like, we're looking for extras, we're looking for editors, we're looking for this, for that, and people responded, man. Like, I love Facebook. I met my wife through Facebook. I met my publisher through Facebook. Just so much has happened through Facebook. Can't tell me nothing bad about Facebook, man. I love it. It's all about what you do.
No. You can't just run past that. I met my wife through Facebook. That's the truck up. So how does that happen? I know it happens, but in your case, how did that happen? Aziz Ansari has a hunk about computer dating, and he says, one of his friends did a computer dating thing and ended up with, the woman of his life, blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, when you did that, when you went and searched in the computer dating, what were you looking for? And the guy said, my zip code and Jewish. So my question is, was this someone who met you on Facebook and had an affinity for you? Or, I'm always interested in these stories.
Yeah, well, actually, man, how it happened, you know how you look on the, I don't know if they even do it anymore, but on the right side of the screen, there'll be a little thing saying, oh, you might want to meet this person, or they'll do friend suggestions. And I just saw a little thumbnail of my wife, and I thought she was beautiful. So I hit her up. I reached out, and I was like, hey, let's go out. And she was like, okay. But and it's funny because she saved our first conversation, which was through Facebook, which was through inboxing. So she said we literally have our first conversation documented. So every year on our anniversary, she'll post it on Facebook, and it's a real notebook kind of moment,
Oh, yeah. You married way over the end of your skis, man. You are so lucky.
Yeah, I looked up. I really looked up.
You really did. That's pretty cool. But that's a great story because that's the kind of stuff. First of all, you can tell your kids that story. Although, maybe you don't want your girls, just getting hit up by somebody on Facebook.
Yeah, so I'm saying on paper it sounds bad. Whenever you hear somebody say they met somebody online, it just sounds bad on paper. But it was the exact opposite of how you would think it would have went. So.
Yeah, it worked out well for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so between her acting, networking, I think the lesson here is that the fact that you were able to do the kind of effective networking that you did, you managed to get this project not only off the ground but completed. So obviously, reaching out to people with an affinity helps a lot, and you just happen to marry into a situation like that. But to be able to get that done for free,
Exactly, and I was gonna say, and it's just crazy how much can happen when you just start putting it out there and you just start asking people like, hey, what do you think about this? Or, hey, do you want to work on this with me? And I'm telling you, man, all I had to do was start asking people. And once I start asking and putting it out there and saying this is what I'm going to do, I swear, man, the shit just started happening. It just started happening. Nothing out of my pocket. Thank you, God. Nothing. As far as we fed the crew, but man, I had such an amazing cast. Everybody was so good, and it was, man, I couldn't be so grateful, man. So I can't even tell you how it happened. I don't even know how it happened. All I know is I woke up, I said I want to make a movie, I want to do this book, and people came into my life and they made it happen.
That's pretty cool. And I mean, I can even hear you smiling about the whole thing, man.
It's awesome, man. It's just so awesome. It's so awesome. I'm so grateful.
All right, so about the filmmaking process, let's talk a little bit about that. We have a few filmmakers a couple of them are online now. What was, take us through, because it sounds like, yes, you had people with experience, but you weren't necessarily one of them, right?
Right. Yeah.
How was like the learning situation for that going for you? What was the most compelling part of learning how to do a motion picture, or do the filming, do the production? What were the kind of the highlights for you?
Well, I'll never forget the day that the lead actor from Merce, Eugene Russell, when we actually had a reading at the director Justin's house. All the people that came out for the parts, we all sat down and read through the script. The first time I heard him read Merce, like it was like the first time you ever heard a character that you wrote, the first time you ever heard their voice. And I was like, oh shit, that sounds really cool. Like, first of all, Eugene is an amazing voiceover actor, so his voice was already just incredible. So to just hear somebody speaking the words that you wrote, it just gave it a whole new life of its own, and it just made me think about everything totally different. Like, even when I write the book now, I'm thinking of Eugene's voice in my head when I'm writing stuff that Merce says, just off of filming. So that was a huge highlight right there. Another thing, or one of the main things that I did learn, and again, it's about compromise. Like, okay, for instance, me and Justin, great friend of mine, we have completely different tastes in film. So that was a big hurdle. Like, Justin he doesn't really watch horror. He doesn't really like doesn't really watch the vampire genre per se. So, and which was okay because I don't really approach this as a traditional vampire film. He just happens to be a vampire, but
right.
But it was really just about compromising. That's the main thing: compromising and realizing that you aren't the only person that has a stake in this. And you aren't the only person that's sacrificing to make this happen. So when you realize that you have to make some compromises and you have to make some changes so that you don't want to give all your vision up, but you have to make room for other people's vision too, while still keeping yours intact. Especially when people are helping you, are just helping you out of the goodness of their heart, and out of them just believing in the project. So I don't have anything bad to say, but it definitely was a learning experience. But it also made me understand how, people are always like, the book was different, the book had this, or the book had this in it, the movie took this out. But, you know, the book is going to have more stuff in it than the film is going to have. The book is going to be more in-depth. It's going to be more character development probably than a movie. So, you know, it was just a learning experience, and it was great, man.
And so now that you've seen the process, do you think it'll be easier for you to write for the movie, you know, for a movie rather than just strictly for the book, for a book?
Yeah, I think I'm still, you know, I'm not 100% fully on my screenwriting skills yet. They're getting there.
Okay.
And I'm in the process of writing the full length, because if somebody does like the film in the festivals and they do want to develop it, I'm going to have that full script ready to go, you know. So I'm working on that, getting that fleshed out now. So, yeah. Okay. Can you hold on one sec?
Yeah, go ahead.
I can't pause. I'm sorry. Hold on.
No, we'll just edit this shit out.
She want to know how long, because she said she'd be maybe like another 30 minutes. I don't know. I can't even tell her. I don't know. Tell her to wait as long as she can. If not, then, you know. Hello.
Yeah, we can go about another half hour and then kind of cut the show a little bit short because we started late. Yeah, because we started late, and we don't want to take you away from, you know.
I gotta eat, man. I need some money. I gotta eat.
Exactly. No. You got. What do you say? You got babies to pay for.
I got babies to feed, man. I'm good though. You good, man?
Yeah, no. One of the things I've thought about getting a tattoo, but I'm of a different generation, and but I always thought a fun thing would be is, you know, even at my age, I have not lost all my hair, which is one of the reasons why I go to all my reunions, because most of my partners don't have any hair at all. But one of the things I wanted to do was shave all my hair off, have you know, someone like you tattoo like a brain on my head, and then let my hair grow back in, and then as I lose my hair, if I lose my hair, you see more and more of my brain. But that didn't make any sense either.
Right. I'm sorry. Can you say that again?
It's okay. No, it's okay. You know, you obviously have a business running there.
But we're good. We're good. Go ahead. We don't have to interrupt anymore, man. I apologize.
No, don't worry about it. About just a procedural question. About how many people do you know, on an average day, do you work on?
Man, on an average day, well, being that this is the slow season, maybe I don't know, 3 or 4 a day. But during the summertime, income tax season, oh man, it may be 10 or 15 small ones, or it may be somebody may come in and want their whole back done, which may take me, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours maybe. So it just depends. It really varies.
When you mean income tax season, you mean when the refunds come in?
When the refunds come in, that's when people bring paintings off of their living room wall, big frame pictures, and like, hey, I want this on my whole back. Like, this is when people get like huge, ridiculous stuff that I'm like, okay, it's income tax time.
Man, what's the strangest picture you've ever done?
Strangest picture, man, it's too many. You know what? The one that sticks out the most is, I remember this guy came in and he wanted to get a swastika on him, and he was black, but he had all of his tattoos were death related and evil related. Like, he had Grim Reapers, he had skulls, he had dismembered heads, and all kind of evil, really bad stuff. And he was like, he ran out of evil stuff to get, and he knew that the swastika was so associated with badness that he wanted it.
Right.
I didn't do it on him. I passed him off to another artist, because I was like, come on, man, I just can't do that on you, man. I just can't do it. But my partner did it, so.
No, I mean, I was, well, of course, somebody was going to do it.
Somebody's going to do it, you know.
I was just wondering if there was something that you would turn down. I mean, I guess that makes sense. That would be like, you know, I guess putting somebody with a hood on a brother's arm or something like that. You know?
I mean, you know, everything can't be about the money. You know what I'm saying? Not everything. You know, you gotta draw a line somewhere. And I didn't think I had a line until that guy walked in, and I realized I did.
And you put tattoos every place, I would imagine, on every part of people's anatomies, right?
Yeah, everywhere but the face. I don't tattoo on the face.
Yeah, and where was the most intimate place that you did a tattoo?
Whew, infamous. I don't know. The armpit is really weird to work on. The head is weird to work on.
Yeah.
As far as actual things, I do so much. It's really nothing even shocks me anymore.
Doesn't faze you at all anymore, does it?
Not at all. Or I know my daughter's gonna be listening to this, so nothing I can really say.
Okay. Oh, yeah. No. I didn't even think of that. Yeah. Well, doing those Disney characters, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, which I do. which I do those too. Which I do those too. I've done my fair share of Daffy Duck.
Yeah. Do you ever turn anything down for copyright?
Nah. You talking about for a tattoo?
Yeah.
Nah. There's people. Okay. So many people get stuff off of Google now anyway. Like everything, which I try not to do because everybody. I swear, people will get on Google and like for the whole week, I'll just get everybody coming in getting the same thing. I'm like, how did everybody know what to get? And then you'll tell people like, I might say like, oh man, I've done this like 3 times this week. And I'm like, oh okay, well I don't know those people, so I'm like, okay.
You have tattooing trends that you run across.
Definitely.
Oh man.
And the trends are pretty much monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah.
Except for people that are real collectors and people that really have a genuine respect for the art form and what can be, which is why I like a lot of the tattoo shows that are out now, like 8 Master and stuff, because they show you what tattoos are supposed to look like. And people come in now that have seen those shows, and they're a little bit more educated now, which I think is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Even though a lot of the black tattoo artists, I don't think have been represented that great. But the ones, there have been some good ones, but I think for the most part, you got shows like Black Ink that really focus on more like drama and not necessarily actual doing tattoos or actual art. It's more just drama that happens in the tattoo shop, and you may do 1 or 2 tattoos per episode. So, we still got a little hurdle, I think, as far as how black tattoo artists are represented. I still meet people that come in that live like in middle America, like Utah, Seattle, and they're like, we didn't even know there were black tattoo artists. I've never even met a black tattoo artist.
Yeah, I'm sitting here shaking my head because, I'm finding the ubiquity of the dumbing down of America to be not only disappointing but disheartening these days. Why? And obviously, you're talking about, well, when you tattoo on a dark-skinned black person, it's you have to think in terms of a whole different color palette and things like that than for a white person and this and that. But these are all things that you learn as a matter of course during your apprenticeship, right? Yes.
Yeah. And a lot of it was trial and error, and but yeah.
Yeah. If you had your druthers, obviously you would rather be doing, a movie or even maybe even a serial or a television show with your universe and your characters in it. Where do you see yourself? Let's say, where do you hope to see yourself? Maybe 5 years down the line.
5 years down the line, I expect or I hope to see. That's a good question, man, because I sometimes I don't know what I'm more excited for, the book or the film.
Right.
Definitely the book, because I just feel like with each issue I'm growing as an artist. But I would say in 5 years I want to have the Day Black brand established, like film or book or both. I want it to definitely be something that's known and something that's worldwide, and it has so much appeal as far as vampires are hot, tattooing is hot. I don't even want to say slavery is hot, but it is kind of hot right now, even though that's totally not why I wrote it. And I remember when Django came out, I was like, it was so much stuff in Django that I had to take out of Day Black because I was like, see, I can't do it because he did it first,
Right.
Right. yeah, but just getting the brand set and really making a living off of Day Black and not doing tattoos anymore, but solely making a living off of Day Black.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's most creative people's, you know, desire. I would love to be a writer and not have to worry about, you know, going out and fixing computers during the day. You know what I mean? I would love to be making my living off of what I like to do. That's a tough thing to do. You know, you've got a cool day job, man. A day job that, even though it's not what you want to do anymore, and you're definitely burned out on it, but you still have the skill set and you still have, you know, the ability to do, you know, to make money fairly easily. I mean, that would be fair to say, wouldn't it? I mean, it's not like this is hard for you.
Definitely.
And for, you know, like for me, it's not hard to fix computers. It's not hard to make people happy, you know, in a business sense that way. But I've been doing it since 1970, and I mean that's a long ass time to do anything.
Right.
And I would love to be, you know, an author living off of my writing, but it's just not there yet. And you know, for what I make fixing computers, I just can't give it up because it's easy work, you know. So, you know, you're 5 years down the line, if you're completely making your money off of Day Black, and we're talking about a couple different genres, maybe you've expanded your obviously your 10 comic book arc into more, you're converting that to either some kind of television show or serial or whatever. That sounds like a pretty cool way to spend your life because it is what you want to do.
Definitely.
When you talk to, do you get to talk to kids about what you do?
I do actually. Well, I teach a comic book design class every Saturday, and I have a few artist friends that are teachers, and whenever they ask me to come speak to the kids, man, I always do. I always do because, I mean, even if you reach one kid, you know, it's something special, and for them to see, for one, when they know I do tattoos, that automatically draws them in. And when I tell them I do tattoos, they automatically listen to everything I'm saying because I guess it's a cool profession, so I guess it automatically, validates me making money as an artist. And like, oh, okay, well, you do tattoos, so I understand how you can make money off of art. But then I have to use that platform to tell them, like, okay, well, I also do this, and I also write, and I also do this, but I had to do this to get to that point. So, and I'm a person that came up in art programs as a kid. As far as I was in this program called Art at Work, and it would be high school kids. We would get together. We would do art projects, and they would get auctioned off. But it was like a job. We would get paid to do it. So I'm just all about the arts, man. I'm all about the kids. I'm all about sharing the things that I do know when people are interested to know what I know. Which I don't feel like is a lot, but it's crazy. It's like when people start asking you questions, it's like you start realizing what you do know. You know, like you asking me stuff and I'm telling you something, I'm like, wow, I knew that, but I never really said it out loud. You know, or I guess you don't really, or I guess you really don't know what you've learned until you start teaching.
Well, that is true. Not only that, but it also helps you better organize your own work because then you realize, well, in order to convey it to somebody else, I can't just tell them step 3. I have to start them at step 1 and walk them up. So there's a certain amount of organization that naturally flows from that. How old are these kids generally?
They're 13 and 18.
Yeah. That's a great age because if they're already interested in art, you know, you're able to show them, well, hey, here's how that art can instantly become money when you get out of school. You know?
Right, exactly.
Good. Yeah. Do you attend any of the conventions? Well, wait, you met Jarvis at one of these conventions, right?
I did at the last OnyxCon, and probably a couple more before that. But I think maybe the first time I met him, Day Black was really, really young, man. So, but I still had it at OnyxCon, but not to the point where it is now. And actually, the first copy that I had, I remember I sent it out to a bunch of people, like a bunch of different publishers, and everybody was like, no. And at the point it was then, I could understand why. Now I would send it, no problem. But yeah, but as far as conventions, yeah, OnyxCon has been the only one I've been to so far to promote Day Black. But I think next year we're going to be doing a lot more.
Well, remember, put all of your appearances. Come to BSFS and put your appearances on the events calendar, because there are. I mean, right now we have over 4,400 members, and
wow.
I take a look every now and then to see what may be going on in Chicago that I could go see before the street lights come on and my ankle bracelet starts jingling. But seriously, it's a good thing, because remember, this is not a bad community to belong to, because they're artistic, they're smarter than the average person, and they're also the kind of people who will probably tell you the truth about what they like and what they don't like about what you have, and in some cases there's value in that. Not everybody, like I said before, not everybody takes critique. Most people just want cheerleaders. But, if you want to elevate your art to the point where people are going to say, okay, we're going to pay for an option for this, and we want this cat's stuff to be on, whatever cable channel it is, that's, not just anything gets to that level. It's not like, oh, I'm going to give my book to Oprah and then I'm on Easy Street. You know what I mean?
Right.
So try to let people at least, think about it when you're going to be at one of these conventions, to let us know at BSFS so that we can.
Definitely. I'm definitely gonna do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Or come up here to Chicago to C2E2, and I'll take you to lunch.
Nice. Okay.
Oh no, I'm serious. Anybody I meet from BSFS, I'm happy to meet them. Not because they for any other reason than to be able to relate to a fellow creative, somebody who has really put themselves out there and who's taken time to hone their craft and really wants to do something well with their life. Those are people that I like to support. So not that Chicago's not. C2E2 is in February. And there's a whole lot of folks who don't want to be in Chicago in February. I don't want to be in Chicago in February. But well, I'm serious, man. Last year almost killed me. Last year it was so cold I couldn't believe it. But seriously, do put your work, your schedule up if you're going to be someplace, because then people can drop by and see you. You mentioned doing the movie, and it sounded like you had. And I asked you before, about your whether or not you thought you were a good collaborator, and you mentioned, well, it's my vision, it's this and that. But it sounds like you've already had that taste of compromise, and not compromise like you're not getting what you want, but compromise in maybe taking a look at someone else, how they may see something, and finding validity in it. When something like that happens for you, is the revelation a fun thing for you? Like, I didn't think about that. That's pretty cool. Or
no, I think I think for one, it comes from who is it coming from, and do I respect the person's opinion who's telling me this? Because if I don't respect, if I don't respect what you've done, or I don't think that you can do anything that I'm doing justice, then I'm probably going to take what you're saying with a grain of salt. But if I do respect you, I am going to listen to what you are going to say, like the case with Justin. Me and him clashed. We clashed like quite a few times, nothing too serious, but just creative differences. But I realized, I'm trying to see what I'm saying. I put it like this: a lot of stuff that came out of those arguments ended up making the film stronger, because a lot of things that I did in the book don't necessarily translate in the film. I had to think about things like, okay, how is the audience going to perceive this? Okay, for instance, we did one scene where we were doing at Merce's tattoo station, and his tattoo station pretty much looks like mine. There's a million different pictures on the wall, a bunch of different stuff for people to look at. But I had a picture of Buddha hanging on the wall, and my director, Justin, he's a Christian, and he felt like for him to have the picture of Buddha on the wall would confuse the viewers to they would think he's a Buddhist. When well, first of all, let me tell you this about the book. In Day Black, you know, the whole lore with vampires is the cross. The cross repels vampires. Well, in Day Black, religious symbols only affect vampires if that was their religion before they got turned. So a guy that was Jewish before he was turned, a cross isn't going to do anything to him. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or a guy that was a Rasta, you know, symbols only affect that whatever you were before. So he thought, you know, it was just little stuff like that. Like he thought, well, you know, he's not Buddhist, so we don't want people to think he's Buddhist. So even little stuff like that, it really seems mundane. It's stuff like that I had to take out, even though I'm not a Christian, but I still, if I see a picture of Buddha and I think it's a nice picture, I'm going to hang it up. I don't really think that means that I'm a Buddhist or I'm down on anybody that's not. So it's just different. It's just different, you know, just different things as us as individuals. I don't know. That's the.
You have to get along. I mean, you do have to get along.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, I remember that, like, the first edit of my first novel, you know, this woman took out stuff that I was so in love with having written. But, you know, when she told me her justification and when I, you know, thought about, you know, I didn't know jack about writing a novel at that time. You know, when she explained to me, well, this is why I think this really shouldn't be, then I was like you. I had to think of outside of my own box, outside of my own narrow view, and think in terms of a much bigger perspective. And it wasn't immediately easy, but it happened. So it does sound like you can collaborate, and that you have really got the beginnings of putting together a good team.
Right. Okay, I'm sorry. Can you please say that again?
No, do you have to go?
No, I'm fine. These people want their tattoos, but no, it's good, man. Keep going.
No, I'm thinking. It sounds to me like if you get to the point where you can find the funding to put together, you know, the episodes you want to put together, or even do a feature film, it sounds like you've got a pretty good start on your production team. Are these people who you think you're going to work with over the long haul, or, you know, if you get to the point where somebody's going to be dropping some big coin in your pocket to do this, are you going to have to go look for others, maybe a more professional, more experienced crew?
Well, everybody knew going into it that we were doing this to try to show what could be, kind of like a demo. So everybody knows that this isn't. If anything happens, if anything comes of this, nobody is expecting to be called to replace or reprise their role or anything. This is kind of just like a one-shot thing. But that being said, if I have an opportunity to include anybody that worked in it, like even Justin, my director, he doesn't necessarily want to direct a feature, but I'm going to make sure that he's involved in some capacity. Everybody that works in this film is going to be involved in some kind of way. Like, I'm so grateful that I couldn't do enough to pay these people back.
Yeah. One of the things that I did was I did a production trailer for a movie that I want to do. And what I will do is when we do get the budget for doing the feature, I'm going to end up paying all of the people who worked on the production trailer whatever scale was for what the position they were in. You know, because you definitely want, I mean, obviously thanking people and people getting in on your deal and wanting to help propel your dream forward is a pretty cool thing. But in the final analysis, this is a business for all of us.
Yes, definitely.
So, all right. So, did you mention that you were going to try to do a Kickstarter for this, or are you looking for conventional finance?
We're definitely going to try for the Kickstarter.
Okay.
And I was actually looking to do that before I met with Bill Campbell, and I was going to try to just get books. I was going to try to self-publish, but I just got with Bill first.
Right.
And yeah, but after that, we are definitely going to try to do the Kickstarter campaign for the film. And like I said, I'm still not sure. We're working with Dan Flores. I don't know if you know Dan Flores, Dan the Man, DTM, creative genius. But he's actually going to be helping us with helping us spearhead our campaign, and as far as helping us with rewards and just trying to figure out the best way to go about it.
And what do you think your budget might be?
Don't know. That's a good question. I mean, we have to consider. Okay, are we going to hire? Okay, if we're going to make it a feature, we're going to have to find a director. We're going to find how much do they charge? What kind of equipment do they need? You know what I'm saying? So it's just a lot, man. Like, we haven't even begun to scratch the surface on that yet. I think we're waiting to see what the response is going to be from the film festivals, and just go from there. Justin had a web series called Mommy Uncensored, and it racked up like on all the film festivals they submitted it to. So we've got a little bit of pull from coming off of that. If anybody get a chance, go to YouTube, check out Mommy Uncensored. It's an amazing web series with Justin's wife, and really funny. So check that out if you get a chance to.
Okay, so let's talk about the next 6 months. What are you working on right now besides maybe trying to do the due diligence to get the funding for the movie? How close are you to the fourth copy of the fourth edition of Day Black coming out?
I will be done with this issue, I'm thinking Sunday night, Monday. I'm probably going to send it off to Bill. And that issue is going to round out the graphic novel, because we actually compiled the first 3 issues into a graphic novel. And those are the ones that Jarvis saw me selling, which were really advanced review copies that we had a surplus of. We were sending them out to different publications for review, but we had a bunch of them left over, so we were just selling those. But with this fourth issue added, it's going to be a more complete book, and that's going to actually be going on sale, I believe, early next year. But for the next 6 months, man, Day Black. Day Black is literally all I do. Anything that I draw, like even if I feel like drawing anything separate from Day Black, when I draw it, I end up using it for Day Black. Like, all right, I'm using this. Anything I draw has to go into Day Black, because I can't waste any creative juice on anything else. It all has to go towards Day Black. Like, I'm working on painting. I'm working on a Day Black painting now for, we're doing a screening for our first public screening at the Artist King show, curated by Dan Flores on November 22nd at Atlanta Tech Village. If anybody's out there in the Atlanta area, that's going to be the first place you're going to be able to check out the film. So, yeah. And
one more time, just say where they can take a look at the film that you guys shot, the short that you shot.
Yeah, you can check out the trailer at dayblackfilm.com, and we're going to be uploading we'll be uploading the actual film in its entirety, I believe, after we do the first screening on the 22nd. So it's probably going to be up on the 23rd, I'm thinking.
Very cool. Very cool. What are you doing through the end of the year? You got big holiday plans?
Oh, man, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Stacking up for these gifts, and that's about it, man. Nothing too crazy. Same deal, grinding it out. This time is like the old story with the ant and the grasshopper. Like, this is the time where you got to kind of save your money, and then summer every summer we're like, oh, we're going to save up for wintertime. We never do. And then every winter we're like, damn, we'll save up next year. But, yeah, man, just grinding it out. Just grinding until New Year's, until these people will come bring me their income tax checks. But I'll be just day blacking it.
I think that is so funny that your busy season coincides with, like the accounting season, when everybody's doing everybody's taxes and things like that.
Yeah. Definitely.
Well, okay, so if you have any advice for people out there who want to at least try to create their own comic universe, I mean, what are some of the things that you would tell your kids, the kids that you teach, about developing, a creative universe so that you can have a comic?
Right. Man, well, in my case, I would say put as much of yourself into it as possible, because that's always a real place that you can draw from, and people tend to be able to pick up on that, and I think it comes off more authentic. It doesn't have to be a whole lot, but I mean, somewhere in there, you need to be in there some kind of way, and do it the way it comes out naturally. Don't do it like I remember in college, the big thing was manga and Japanimation. Everybody was drawing it. Like, it was black kids at my school, and they would only draw these like Japanese characters. Like, they would put all their time and energy to mimic this style that was already being done way better and just on a grander scale, but they still wanted to do it. And I was like, hey man, why would you devote all that time on doing something that's been done? Like, do your own thing. Like, make your own mark, do your own style. Like, I'm really big on that. So I would just say find your own voice, find your own style, and then just go from there. If it feels natural, just go with it. I mean, that's the only thing I can say, because that's how it happened for me. I can't say that's the best way, but that's how it worked for me.
But that's a very fundamental, be true to yourself kind of message.
Yeah,
because when you just straight out copy somebody else, chances are you're not going to be as good as they are at it.
Exactly.
And if you're not as good as they are at it, then you're not going to be as successful as they are. So exactly. Be true to yourself is something that's tough for kids. That's got to be a tough lesson that you're teaching them, because everybody, if they see something that's successful someplace else, they're going to go, well, I'm going to do that because it already is making someone money. But the fact of the matter is, it's already making someone else money.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, look, we're kind of coming close to the end of the show here. Jarvis and I can discuss some things about the BSFS for that, but I want to thank you for coming on, man. And sorry that we took up your evening, and you got all these people who have their tattoos done.
No problem.
They're probably not going to be fans of ours. You could tell them, well, I was just on a show. Yeah, well, fine, but get over here and work on my arm.
That's literally what just happened.
I can hear. So anyway,
all they see is me being on the phone, and they're waiting to get their tattoos. But I'm like, hey, it's got to wait, man. I'm sorry.
But two things. Definitely try to populate, your page on BSFS. Show people where you are, what you're doing, and drop those links to your work, because like right now, Jarvis is in the middle of leading a team to do a 3D movie. BSFS's first feature film. It's going to be a 3D movie. And so he's a team from all over working on that, all over the U.S., are working to do that. And so when you get to the point where you may want to do something like that, we've got so many talented people who could probably help you out and at least maybe lessen that learning curve. That learning curve is a bitch. Okay, trying to figure out how to all of a sudden be a movie producer, not the easiest thing in the world. I can attest to that. So it's a good community to belong to, and you're a great guy. You've got good skills, you got mad skills, and you've got great talent. And so if you can draw people like that together, you're more likely to have some success. So I want to thank you for being on the show and spending this time with us, because it's very obvious it was cutting into your day or your productive time. And I don't want anybody to accuse me of keeping someone from getting a pair of shoes for their child.
Oh, no, man. It's okay, man. I wouldn't have missed it for the world, man.
All right. And then for those, the reminder, it's Keef Cross, KEFF CROS. Huh?
Excuse me, KEFF CROSS.com.
Yeah.
KeefCross.com.
Yeah. And then the comic series is called Day Black, and then the link to the movie is dayblackfilm.com. So we'll post all of that up. We hope to revisit you in the future and check you out and see what you're doing. And I mean, seriously, it has been a pleasure. I hope it has been for you as well.
awesome. It's been great. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, okay, good. And then I'm going to let you go because I don't want you to have to. Please go needle somebody up. All right.
I gotta hurt somebody, man. They're begging for it.
Yeah. Well, usually I have to pay extra for that, but that's good. That's good.
Right.
Keith, and take it easy. Have a great evening, and we'll catch up soon. And seriously, I will. If you want to get hold of me about the whole movie process, I'm not the only person on BSFS, but I could at least tell you some of the things that I found very successful in getting money, and that's a big deal. All right, man?
Okay, definitely. And when I finish these tattoos, I'm definitely updating my page tonight and try to start make some connections.
That'd be great. All right, so we'll see you soon. And then I'm going to let you go, and I'll finish up here with Jarvis, and we will see you sometime in the future.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, take care, man.
All right, thanks, Jarvis. Take it easy, man.
Peace.
So we got a late start early. At the beginning of the show. We've got a few minutes left here to round it out to a couple hours. Jarvis, why don't you give us the latest and greatest for all things that are BSFS?
Oh, man. It's so much going on. It's ridiculous. But something I mentioned, I think last time, we're bringing back our newsletter so that we can stay in touch with the membership so that everyone knows what's going on, and we're going to have it come out each month as a regular thing. That's one item on the list of about 10. Also, James Jones, he's joined the radio show team and has been making videos to go along with all of the shows that we've been doing for the last 2 years. So I think in some point in December or the very first of January, we're going to have a whole new way for people to catch the shows. And so,
well, it's going to be a YouTube channel.
Right, exactly. And so just trying to extend the reach a little bit and be more effective. We are thinking about jailbreaking the radio show to have its own site as well. So got a lot of things coming up. Let's see, I don't know if I mentioned it, but we're planning on doing a sci-fi tour next year whereby all of the events that I was privy to go to this year, we're going to pair off with people in those cities and split the price of participating so that everyone can have an opportunity to get their wares out there and really be more effective. And to my biggest thing is it's just making people aware of what you're doing. And if once you make people aware of what you're doing, then they can support you. If no one knows that you exist, they can't buy your stuff. So we want to get all of our people's work out there in the magazine, on the website, on the radio show, on every avenue that we have. Let's see, what else do we have interesting? Oh, Keith Young, who's an awesome graphic artist, historian, and teacher, last February he did a workshop for us during our 6-year anniversary. So what we're going to do this year, we're going to have a workshop every month. So that's some good stuff to look forward to coming up. And let's see, I think we have quite a few things going on, but I don't want to put everything out there. I want to leave something to the imagination, but those are a few of the things we have in store, in addition to maintaining what we're already doing with the radio show, of course, with the anthology series, with the magazine, and with the website.
Well, with all the cool things, the cool new things that are coming up for the radio show, does this mean that I get a raise?
Of course, we're going to double what you're already getting.
Ooh. Oh, okay. So the answer is really no, isn't it? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so you're getting paid the same thing I'm getting paid for the radio show.
Well, isn't that the truth? So everybody what's the latest and greatest with Earth Squadron?
Okay, with Earth Squadron, we're still at the same point. We're animating more characters. We actually had to add some more characters after, so that everything will be rounded out. We added a couple more characters. We're still animating not animating, but we're still working on the storyboards, which is really cool. And I just talked to Quasi Jackson. He's a member on the site. He's a pretty busy fellow too, so he pops in when he gets an opportunity. But he's using the Celtics.com software, which I also use on my computer. We kind of collaborate and log in and go over the storyboards and kind of look at it. It has an animatic feature, so you can hit one button and kind of see the flow of what we've done so far, and I'm really enjoying that. But other than that, everything's still moving forward, making new characters and doing the storyboards. Once the storyboards are completed, that's when the animation part begins. But we already have made some significant gains with people doing voiceovers, the equipment to do the voiceovers, background audio, special effects. I mean, I'm really excited about the process. So just stick with us, and I'll keep posting information and graphics as they're created, so you can see what's going on, see the new characters coming out. We're going to also show you some of the new ships that have been made as well. Hello?
Yeah, no, I'm here. Okay, so no, I'm sorry. I was looking at something.
Zoned out.
So everything was. Well, I was just fantasizing about all the other cool things I can buy with this raise I'm going to get. So I don't have anything really new happening, except that I've decided, and I know everybody's going to say it's a sellout. I know they're going to call me a sellout. No, I know. But I've decided that given the way the elections went and things like that, I've decided that next year I'm just going to join the 1%, because I think that there's some good, there's some good value in that for me. It makes things easier. I'm sorry?
Some profit in it. So you're going to become a politician?
No. I'm just going to become wealthy. I've decided, screw this working for a living thing. I'm ready to make a change. Now, how I'm going to do that, I'm not exactly sure, but I'll keep you all posted.
Okay.
All right.
Don't tell me about it.
Yeah. All right. So we are at our 2 hours here because we started later. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank everybody who supports this show, because for me it's always an inspiration to at least look up and see that somebody's listening live. And I know a lot of people pick it up as a podcast because they're busy on Friday nights. But I want to thank everybody who does tune in and make this at least something worth doing. And Jarvis, always thank you to you for having faith in me to be able to handle such an auspicious portion of the entire social network.
Well, likewise. I keep telling people, man, I get high on my own supply. Just being able to meet with other people that think like I do, that have a love for science fiction and black science fiction like I do, that's a reward in itself, because I hear reiterated all the time that people feel like they were the only one that was like that. And then to meet other people from around the world that think like you do is a great thing.
Yeah, and I do have one thing. Hopefully within the next, I would say 4 to 8 weeks, I should have the final volume of the Dark Side trilogy out. So I am kind of excited about that, because were I to be honest with everybody, I would have to admit that when I started writing the Dark Side trilogy, I really had no idea if I would ever finish it. I mean, I had no expectation of finishing it. So this is kind of a cool thing for me, 750,000 words, and I will be done, at least with the first trilogy. So that's about it. And the rest of it is just hoping that we make it through the winter. After last year in Chicago, I can't do 2 of those in a row. I'm in that Danny Glover camp. I am getting way too old for this stuff. So on behalf of everybody, I'm sorry?
You're going to hibernate for the winter?
Let's see, the end of December 28th, I'm officiating at a wedding in Las Vegas. So I get out of Chicago at the end of December. That's pretty cool. And then sometime in February, I'm going down to Florida A&M to be on a panel of writers, speculative fiction writers, with Stephen Barnes, Tananarive Due, and Walter Mosley. So I get out of Chicago in February, at least on someone else's dime, both of these other times. So that's pretty cool. Looking forward to both of those opportunities. I'll take pictures. I'll try to stay out of trouble. And hopefully a good time will be had by all. So on behalf of everybody, let's call an end to this show because we're actually overtime now.
All right, man. Well, as usual, I need to go get me some water, and I'll be back over in the chat room on the main site in about 10 minutes.
All right. Good night, everybody.
All right. Good night. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.